Good morning, and a good signal as per usual. It's actually dry here this morning, so David is just flopping around here. We're looking for a piece of paper. He must want to ask you something. Go ahead, Graham. Good morning.
Morning, David. Yeah, you're moving in here. Well, we had another really quiet night. There's another 20 hours, would you believe? But we're about 10 miles from North Minerva Reef at the moment. And once again, the wind is, I think it's gone around slightly southeast or south-southeast, about 5. Our position is 2350 south, 17859 wind. We're motoring at 5.8 knots on a course of 353 magnetic. And I said the wind's very light and lots of motoring.
Yep, lots of motoring. Yeah, it seems to be the general theme from what we've seen on the reports this morning. Okay, for those too close to hear Taranui, they are about 10 miles from North Minerva to join the group there. I think Elisham was probably wishing that they had stayed there because they've had a couple of fronts on their way north. But anyways, 10 miles from North Minerva, very light. It's gone sort of south-southeast, 2350 south, 17859 west. So, yep, you'll be anchored down and having a rest later. Over.
Yeah, like that, and hopefully a swim. And no, it looks like there was a couple of boats in the south Minerva. We can see their anchor hole mast in lights, I guess. So there are a few boats about, but would you believe we've come the whole way? What 5 days or so? And only had one boat come up on the AIS. And we spent all that money and no one ever uses it, over.
Oh, well, it's useful when you really need it. So, yep, you'll probably be thankful for it later. Yeah, I tell you who else is spending some money is son Craig. I got a call yesterday. He's actually bought a single sideband, Graham. Over.
Oh my goodness me! Oh, where do I see he's playing the white? Wow! It must have fallen off the cliff or something, did it?
What a cynical dad! Yeah, well, it is a second-hand one, and he has a couple of things he needs for it. But yes, he's going to be able to be heard when he takes off if he gets everything set up. So. I had to try and convince him that it wasn't just a matter of installing the radio. Then he had a few other things that he had to do, like the ground plane and like. But yep, he's seen the light, so that will be good, particularly with a young one, and you'll be able to keep track of them an awful lot easier. So yeah, I did a bit of chuckle myself, so I'll keep you posted. All right, good morning to everybody that has joined us. This is Gulf Harbour Radio. Patricia and David on air every day at this time except Sunday on 8752, and we have a very chilly morning here, 13 outside. It's about 10 knots from the southwest, although it seems to have dropped since I put that down an hour or so ago. The barometer is finally rising, 1007.9, 30% cloud cover. Although there is a very high cirrus layer up there, I see too, now that I can actually see something outside. So yes, it's sort of one of those mornings where we enjoy reading your reports from the islands. Sarani are reporting clear skies. They're in the bottom, or sort of almost down the bottom part of New Caledonia at Port Bouquet. 22 degrees, so it's not all that tropical there, really. In fact, on the Hamnet, I talked to friends in Queensland, and they have had some really chilly mornings in places like Hervey Bay and Townsville, cooler than here. It does warm up during the day, of course. Anyway, back to Sarani, they've got 5 knots of south-southwest there. Alcyon, good morning to you guys, Jan and Helena. They're on their way north to Suva, and they're at 2235 and 17821 east, and they have got very light winds too, south 6 to 10, 80% cloud cover and a falling bar, 1003. So there's plenty of motoring going on. which if you knew what the fuel prices were in New Zealand, you probably wouldn't be motoring because they're rocketing up here in New Zealand. So just as well you all filled up when you left. There's a report in from Elisham too. They've had a really grim last 35 miles with a couple of fronts to deal with winds up to 30. But at the moment they are at 2838 and 17840 east with southwest still 15 knots, 1008.5, and kind of a leftover swell from the east northeast, so it won't be very comfortable on board. 90% stratus there, so they'll be looking for things a little bit more peaceful. Amazing Grace are also approaching. It's a wonder you don't see them, Graham, on your AIS, because they are at 2411 and 17922. Should see them fairly soon. They're on their way to North Minerva as well. 45 miles away, so a bit behind you, but they've got 95% cloud cover with the wind still southwest at 5 to 7, so not quite the same as what you've got. Anyway, before I move on, let's try and find Flying Cloud to see where they are. Yeah, quite a good signal, Walter. Go ahead. Oh, okay, all well on board. Flying Cloud heading to Ryva Bay in French Polynesia, 3100 south, 16350 east. I'm just checking what you were yesterday because I turned the page. Oh, yeah, you do a pretty steady 6 knots. Light northwest winds, 50% cloud cover, and all is well on board. So, yep, just trucking along. So I'm not sure if David or he'll probably, he's just pointing me out where you are. Yeah. Oh, yep, I see the northwest wind. Yep. West northwest, and you'll have that for a bit by the look of it. Any forecast for them? He's just going to have a look. So what's keeping you entertained during the day? Over. Yep. Hang on, he says you're going to have a frontal band. I'll pass the. Well, you won't want to hear that. Hang on.
She said a frontal band. There is one that's heading your way. That's one of the ones that has visited us, heading east. And I'm not sure the timing of it, but maybe late today, early tomorrow morning, something like that. It'll go through. And the winds behind it look like southerly, maybe south-southwest. So a little bit of a change in the wind, but still light, still pretty light. I wouldn't complain too much about that, though. Believe me, some of the fronts that we've seen go by and the lows that are supporting them, it's been pretty sporty down there. So you're off to Ryva Bay, and I assume you're staying south and then cutting north, or what is your strategy? Over.
Directly to you now. Okay. Alrighty, so we'll keep in touch and see how things go. We'll clear with a Flying Cloud, and I noticed Andiamo they started sailing at midnight, so they've got still south winds waiting for the southeast. They're down at 2246 and 17644 east.
When's so, going to go northerly? But
yeah, getting back to Flying Cloud, the winds will go northerly. When did you say?
Oh, that'll probably be Saturday.
Saturday time frame. So Saturday time frame, so you've got a day or so of what you've got at the moment. All right, a little bit of news, folks, for what's going on around the place. 20-year democracy celebrations going on in Indonesia. It's hard to believe it's 20 years since, was it General Suharto or Suharto? I can't remember. Suharto, I think, who was sort of reigning for about 30 years prior to that, but they're having celebrations there, although there's a bit of strife in the country, as you would have heard me talk about Surabaya last week. Anyway, well, of course, one thing that is not a surprise is that the big summit between Kim Jong-un and President Trump, there is a substantial chance it will not go ahead. Well, I guess you heard it here first. I think we predicted that last week, didn't we?
7.6.
All right. Yep. So, getting on to a fantastic picture of the Lockheed F-35 stealth jet in the paper today. This has been used for the first time in actual real combat by Israel. They have got 19 of them that they purchased from the United States. They're pretty expensive. If you want one, they're 125 million each. But if you buy over 25, then you get them for 112 million. So that's a pretty good bargain. But they can operate deep within enemy territory, so they are quite useful.
Do you get Ginsu knives if you buy over 25?
Yes, I'm sure you get the knives as well. All right. Going on to less dramatic things, a couple living in an apartment in New York have just had to go to court to get their 30-year-old son evicted. Now, evidently he wouldn't help pay any rent or contribute to any workload, so they had to try and get him out, but he is going to appeal. They won their case to get rid of their 30-year-old son. Boy, there'd be a lot of cases in Italy. There's a lot of people in Italy staying home. All right, talking about the trade agreement, because now that England has left, or the UK has left the EU, New Zealand and Australia are negotiating for a trade agreement with the EU, but it does mean that we will run into strife with the dairy industry, because we will not be able to sell things like parmesan, brie, camembert. Ooh, we'll have to rename them, just as we had to rename things that our wine, like Bordeaux and Burgundy and the like.
Is that all it is, just rename it?
Just renaming, yes,
Yeah.
you can still sell it, but just have to call it something different. So anyone's got any ideas for what we could call parmesan, brie or camembert, I'm sure the dairy industry would be pleased to know. And if you've got a spare $1.5 million or whatever, and you would like a floating home with space right beside it for your yacht, Whitianga are proposing, that's in our Coromandel, proposing floating homes on their canal system with the yacht right beside it at 1.6, I think they said, is the estimated cost at this particular time. I don't think I'd hold my breath, because at Fairway Bay here in the Gulf Harbour area, it's on the other side of Gulf Harbour, they got resource consent for floating homes a while ago, at least 6 months ago, but since then they have been buried in paperwork to get building consents. It's caused quite an unusual thing. So first, and so the council, who take long enough to actually get a building consent for land, let alone on the water, so they are buried in negotiations and all the rest of it that go with trying to build floating homes. So you might want to have to stay out there for a bit longer before you can spend your between $1.5 and $2 million to have a floating home. All right, is there anybody out there with any questions or whatever to ask David, or anything that you want to report before we get on to the all-important weather? And I see that there are a few people that have been studying the weather and have noticed some hope for Sunday. First off the mark were Obsession. Good morning, Lisa and Lester. But there are others, and I see Eagles Winger reporting that the weather in Whangarei is actually cloudier than here by the look of it. 5 knots of northwest and a bar of 1009.5. Good morning, Heatwave up there in Opua. They had a wild night. It wasn't actually that bad last night. It was much better than the night before here. and it's now overcast and calm up there, and they too are looking at Sunday. So you better just give them a good description. I'm going to pause and see if there's anybody there.
There you go.
Good morning, Chris.
No, just to let you know, we didn't do all as well. Thank you very much for your overwatch.
Oh, you got there a bit quicker than expected, didn't you? Oh, good morning to you. And what is it like at Suva at the moment? Pretty calm, I would imagine.
Yeah, quite calm. Got about a 40, we've got about 2 months, but this is a little about 30% cloud cover, lots of rain last night, so for all what it was here.
Okay, got all that, all the rain last night, but now only 30% cloud cover and a bar of 1013. Thank you for that. There was a lady's voice in behind Trigger. Who was that?
Anthea.
Oh, good morning, Anthea. Go ahead.
Good morning. We are underway again. Our position is 22313 south, 179 degrees, 57 east, receiving at 5 knots under sail and 8 to 10 knots southwesterly, 100% cloud cover on a course of 326 degrees. Over.
Okay, we have Anthea 2213 south, 17957 east, with 8 to 10 southwest, 100% cloud cover. All right, I shall pop that in the system. Thank you for that. And good signals from everybody this morning, so that's good. I will pick up anybody else after the weather because there's a fair amount of weather to discuss, particularly for those who want to get underway. So I'm going to pass the microphone now so we can pretty much keep to schedule. Here's David.
Okay, good morning. And it's time to take a look at the upper levels again, where today we find 2 shortwave troughs. Now, hopefully, some of you who have access to the internet have taken a look at that 500 millibar paper and looked at the site that we put on there. So if you follow along with me on that, it might be useful if you have the interest to do it. So anyway, if you're looking at it, what I did this morning is I put it on a 3-day loop to see how things were changing. But anyhow, the 2 shortwave troughs, one is east of New Zealand, and the other one is closed off, meaning that it's got circular iso heights, and it's lying southwest of the South Island. Now, there's quite a bit of vorticity in each one of these spin. Our eastern wave continues to support the old depression that we had over New Zealand. It's now a 984, and it's lying east of Stewart Island. Now, this nasty little low is responsible for 2 fronts and a trough that are extending over the cruising routes to the island. So all of you that have been annoyed by these as you're heading north, that's the culprit that's doing it, that small low that's sitting down there. Now, the closed off upper low, that's supporting actually a complex low system. There's a number of low centers in the surface, and they are south of the South Island, and they're sending fronts up the country, and also in the Tasman as well. So nothing escapes this thing, and it's creating a lot of bit of havoc in terms of cloud and rain and cold air. I can tell you, cold air. Further west now, we've got an upper ridge at 500 millibar, and that's supporting the surface high that was in the Bight yesterday and now lies just to the west off of Tasmania. Central pressure, it's strong. It's about 1030, and its ridge is extending toward New Caledonia. Now, here, Sea Area Brett, for you folks up in Opua, we've got gale warnings up. We're looking at southwest 35, easing to 25 later on this morning, and they'll be turning northwest 30 after dinner. And you can certainly expect poor visibility later, and quite a bit of rain, and possibly thunderstorms are projected as well. And we'll see a shift again on Saturday to southwest 35, and that will be easing 25 by this afternoon. Now,
Saturday,
as
yeah.
Patricia said, we've got reports from folks that are wanting to leave on Sunday. Most of them are going to Minerva Reef and are quite anxious to see how things are going to shake out for that trip. Now, I see westerlies 25 to 30 just offshore by lunch on Sunday, shifting to southwest 20 to 25, and those winds hold all the way up to 30 south. Now, it's going to take you about 3 days to get to 30 south, and that puts us in the Wednesday time period. And looking at Wednesday up there, pretty light air out of the west. So you are going to get beat up a bit leaving on Sunday, but it will slowly get better as you get up toward 30 on Wednesday. The air's light, and it stays light all the way up to 25 south. Now, figure a total of 4.5 days to get to Minerva. That's about average for most yachts. So if you leave Sunday, that puts you in Minerva around Friday, by my calculations, and around the lunchtime period. The winds there at Minerva should be easterlies, about 10 to 15 knots. So it looks like you may make this trip without too many worries, other than the departure headaches being a bit rough for that. But apart from that, it doesn't look too bad at all. Now, on Thursday and Friday, as the week rolls on here, we've got a low that may be found in the Tasman, and it's going to throw a front over New Zealand, extending north toward New Caledonia and Anisha. And that's going to be pushing against the old high that's just to the east there, creating a little bit of a squash. So for those of you who are now at 30, roughly 30, that have been on passage for 3 days or so, expect westerly quadrant winds about 20 to 25 knots. At 25 south, those of you that are up there, pretty light air. We've had those reports that confirm that. East to southeast, probably around 10 knots, give or take on that. Your gusts will be higher, and that 10 knots is a mean. Now, by Saturday, the ridge pushes in. Now, this is the ridge from the high that's near Tasmania. That ridge is going to push and push, and it's good news, actually, as it's doing that. So winds then from 25 south to the islands will be south to south-southeast, and I think they'll be in the 15 knot range, so not bad, really not bad at all. Sunday is when GFS sees the depression that looks to form between Fiji and Vanuatu. We talked about this the last 2 days. The winds in the Fiji area will be in the mean now, southeast 20 to 25, quite fresh. Tonga, a little bit better, southeast about 15 or so. By midnight on Sunday into Monday, this area of very heavy convection will take in all of Fiji. It attacks Fiji, really, and it just touches Tonga. Tonga gets the effects of it, the fringe effects of it. So try, those of you that are on passage, recommendation only, try to be in before all of this arrives in Fiji and Tonga. Those of you in Minerva around Sunday, around dinner time on Sunday, and I think that's the 3rd of June, check that, should start to see the convective activity sort of knocking on your door. Now, by Monday, breakfast on Monday in Minerva, the winds are going to come up, so expect southeast 20 to 30 knots, and you're going to have rain, could be lots of rain, and, well, just simply batten down the hatches and snuggle up is about the only thing I can say. Now, this may not happen. Models are slightly in disagreement on the timing. All of them think something is going to happen, but they vary between a closed isobar depression and a polar dip, meaning just a simple trough that's going to occur. But it does look like a fair amount of rain, and with rain comes wind. Now, for those of you who are ignoring all of this and are thinking of leaving on Queen's birthday, the classic departure time, Queen's birthday. Well, looking at Queen's birthday, I would say keep it as a thought, but I think maybe you should have a book handy as well, because it looks like there may be a bit of a squash zone that is between New Zealand and possibly a depression around 30 south. Now, that's too far out to be sure about anything, but keep that in mind. A little bit of disappointing news, I know, but that's the way things seem to be shaping this season. And by the way, seasons and average weather, if you will, all are controlled by the ENSO cycle. And that ENSO cycle is, right now it's neutral, but it vacillates. We're getting differences in sea surface temperatures, differences down to 30 meters in depth, and also we're getting changes in surface temperatures as well. So things are vacillating quite a bit. And I think that's the reason that things are a bit loose up in the atmosphere. So there you go. Not much we could do about it. Now, looking at satellite imagery early this morning, a front is crossing 30 south and the date line. Then it arcs over to 25 and 170 east on its way to Harvey Bay. It's not a big deal, but it's there. Other bands are, well, they're basically interfering with the cruising route. So there's going to be plenty of cloud and squalls out there. You're just going to be unlucky because they come and they go. They're going faster than you are. So there's nothing you really could do about it. Taking radar's advice to go left, go right, and whatnot, you're not going to escape these. So there you have it. Now another trough lies just south of Tonga, and that's reaching Fiji right now. Now we did have rain and showers in Fiji. I think the Suviat reported that. Clear now, but don't hold your breath because there's more cloud behind it. And we have yet another trough actually that's running over northern Vanuatu, and that one goes all the way to the Solomons. The Louisiades are copying it as well as a trough over the Louisiades. And we know there is at least one motor vessel that was heading up to the Louisiades. Okay, looking quickly at Tonga now, we'll run through the islands. Tonga Tapu today should experience cloud and showers, and that's from that nearby trough that's knocking on the door. Winds east to southeast, pretty light, 10 to 12 knots in that range. Tomorrow, southeasterlies for Vavau, I think, and for the Hapais, east-northeast, also pretty light air. Fiji, about now, will be feeling the trough that's inching its way north, and expect cloud, I would say, and showers for the southern parts of the group, off and on, cloud and showers. You'll have some clear spots, nice sunny skies, and then all of a sudden you'll see cloud and developing showers from them. The winds are not bad, though. East to northeast winds, I would say about 10 to 15 out in the open water. But the showers probably will increase later on and become heavier at times. And therefore, the winds will increase with those showers. Those showers are bringing wind from the 850 millibar level generally. And so winds are always stronger in the upper atmosphere, and they come zooming down with the rain, and that gives you your stronger gusts. Also expect a moderate to heavy southerly swell. We've got some big swells to the west of New Zealand. In fact, 8-9 meters I was seeing. Now they are not 8 or 9 meters going into Fiji, but west of New Zealand they are, and they come down considerably as they head north, so don't get too worried about that. What else? Keep in mind then the possible depression and or active trough late this weekend. That's up there in Fiji and possibly Tonga. Early Sunday, we could see, as I said before, southeast 20 to 25 and probably higher gusts. Then there'll be a rapid shift to northerly winds, probably Monday time frame. We'll see about that. It all depends what really does happen over the weekend. But then when that, whatever it is, leaves, then you'll have that wind shift. Southern Vanuatu looks pretty good, just some scattered cloud, but the northern half is under our trough. So if you're up in the north, expect showers, actually from the Fate northward, cloud and showers. Winds are fresh. For the group, expect southeast 20 to 25, all up and down the chain. And I would say a bit of an ease tomorrow. We'll call it southeast 15 to 20. Let's hope it eases. New Caledonia is looking pretty good. Plenty of blue sky and just a few scattered clouds that I could see on satellite imagery. By lunch, expect southeast winds in the 15 knot range. Friday winds become fresh, so they're picking up. I see southeast 15 to 20 in the southern lagoon area. So that's it from me.
A few questions.
Any other questions? Come now. Trish said there is some. I'll pass it over to her, and we'll see what we've got.
Yep, we've got Rewa. Just stand by one, Rewa, and I'll just give David a heads up. I think we've answered a couple of them. Somebody asked on streaming, what effect will the low that's forming in the Tasman next Thursday have on the people leaving? I think you might have commented on that. That's why people are going to Minerva to hang out there for a bit. So I'll pass the microphone to cover that in a minute. Just an interesting report from Margarita. They've got it. They're on their way to Rarotonga at the moment. They're way over at 17246 west, and they have at the moment 25 to 30 knots of west-northwest, screaming along as a result of it, but not very comfortable, I would imagine. Got your report, Bruce. 31 south. So they're making good progress, but I guess they're hanging on. They're screaming along at night. What was the speed? 8 knots, I think. All right, and I've got the report from Anahata, who's looking to arrive in the weekend up there and wanting the wind to pick up a bit. I'll ask David about that one. But we'll just have a look at this effect of the low that's forming in the Tasman, according to the models, next Thursday, and see what effect that's going to have on you folk that are leaving.
Well, I think I covered that. The low is in the Tasman. The front on Thursday is going to be over New Zealand, and it's going to extend north toward New Cal and Anishu. So those winds on the east side of that frontal band are going to be northerly quadrant. So if you're thinking about leaving on Thursday or Friday, you might want to think twice. So what was the other one, Trish?
The other one is going to be covered when we talk to Rewa, because they are interested in wind as well. Rewa, go ahead.
Good morning, Bill Barber. Good morning. 24 degrees, 45 south, 177 degrees, 44.
All right, I picked up your position, and the rest of it, you sort of fade in and out a little bit. I think you said you've got winds of northwest at the moment, which doesn't tie in with Anahata, so I might have got that wrong. I have Rewa at 2445 and 17744 east. And just to remind David, you have the power problem, so looking at winds from there, as Anahata, to get into Fiji. So I'm going to pass the microphone for a little bit more detail about winds between now and Saturday, or the Saturday-Sunday time frame. Stand by.
All right, so you're planning the ETA for Fiji is Saturday or Sunday. Well, that's you've heard what I've said about the trough / possible depression at that time. Saturday would be all right, getting in there if that's your ETA. Looking at tomorrow where you are, light air out of the east from what I could see. Not going to be a large amount of air for sailing. As far as solar panels and whatnot go, these troughs are coming and going so quickly. There is one projected to be right about over you, I think tomorrow about lunchtime, that extends on to New Caledonia, so that's not going to help the solar panels too much. So that's Friday, and I don't see how you could be there on Saturday unless you're a total rocket ship. But what's going to happen on Saturday morning, assuming that you're, say, around 22 or something like that, the winds are picking up considerably. They'll be south-southeast 20 knots plus, and all that convective activity is going to be away from you. So that should be pretty good in terms of sunshine, and you'll have a lot of wind to sail pretty aggressively, I think. But come Sunday at about lunchtime, that is when all the activity starts between Fiji and Vanuatu, edging toward Fiji. So the winds, if actually on Sunday you could be lucky, but it's going to be pretty breezy, southeast winds, 20 to 25 knots in the mean, and probably a troughing band over Fiji as well. The main activity is still to the west. It doesn't attack Fiji proper until about midnight on Sunday. So if you're in the middle of that, you're going to get bounced around pretty good. Over.
Yeah, Roger that. I guess I'll get what I get. 25 knots of wind is the next day's sail for me, so I'm not too worried about that.
Okay. Well, 25 knots is a mean wind. So when I'm talking about that, basically the rule of thumb here is to give it about 5 knots either side of when I say mean, and gusts can be 40 to 50% higher. Now, if in fact we do get thunderstorms out of this, downflow winds in these thunderstorms could easily reach 35 knots, maybe even 40 knots. They could be pretty nasty. So don't get fooled by when I say mean winds. Over.
Yeah, Roger that. Absolutely. It's probably the thunderstorms. If you say the thunderstorms or greater concern.
Yeah, well, I was just reminding David that Rewa is 65-foot aluminium, so you've had her for a while, so you'll be used to dealing with strong conditions. And in fact, with your power problem, you'll probably appreciate those more than the alternative, won't you? So anyway, we'll talk again tomorrow, and presumably David on Anahata heard that as well. So you'll be interested in the conditions on Saturday, which will be good, good wind conditions to get in there. Right, clear with David, who's motoring Rewa. No, they can't because of their power problem, fuel problem.
Yeah, okay, so you can't use the motor because of that. I understand. So to get an ETA out of you is probably going to be pretty tough with the winds being up and down like they are. Now, if in fact you do get there by Sunday, Yeah, I don't really have too much to add to what I did. I'm looking at other models, EC in particular, and a few others. EC actually does show closed isobars now. They were a little bit lagging in deciding what was going to happen. At first, they just had a trough, but now it looks like a tropical depression. So those can be, depending upon how tall the clouds are, how high up they get in the atmosphere. That's a function of how much wind that we're going to have. But you've got a real big boat, so you should be okay. But just be aware, be careful is all we can say. Over.
All right, we're clear with Rewa, and I wonder if there's anybody out there that has an ICOM 803. We've got the problem on Star Charger. They can listen well, but cannot transmit, and I'm not familiar with, that's the one that has the separate control panel with the guts of the radio in a different spot. And I can't work out why he would not be able to transmit, because I've been talking to the folk in Whangarei that put in the antenna and grounding system, and that's all done well, so there must be something. If anyone has any ideas as to why they can't transmit, there must be something that they've just not set right on the control panel. Let me know. And is there anybody else with anything? Please call. Oh, good heavens above. I was going to call you and or email you, Pavel, and see what you guys were up to. We just missed you when we passed through Pahia at Christmas time. You're about a week away for January. So good morning to you. Over. Well, you started off very strong and then you faded. Whereabouts are you again, please, Pavel? Over.
Yeah, 150 miles from Navarapa.
150 miles from where? We're struggling with, you're 150 miles from somewhere. Could anybody relay where they're 150 miles from? No, the power is dropping when you start to transmit, Pavel, so I guess the batteries are a little bit down. But good to hear you, and we'll know that you are again enjoying the lovely weather in the Southwest Pacific. Although looking at the reports coming in, everyone's moaning about the humidity. That's the trouble when you have to shut the boat up with rain. Things are getting hot and humid. So 27 degrees I could see from the Paradise Resort at Taveuni area. So is all well on board, Pavel? Over. Oh, 1 day away. Oh, that's good. You will be looking forward to getting the anchor down and enjoying weather that you will not have in New Zealand, which is very cold. All right, lovely to hear from you. So, yep, we'll call in from time to time. That would be great. It's always good to hear from familiar voices, so especially from people who we used to cruise with. All right, anybody else for Gulf Harbour? All right, we'll leave you all in peace, folks, and we'll be back again tomorrow with the final update. Oh, no, it's only Friday tomorrow, isn't it? We can still do Saturday. For those folk that are leaving on Sunday, I wonder if you can actually check out on Saturdays to get going on Sunday, but probably not. But anyway, we'll be updating and looking at what's going on. That burst of horrible stuff looks as if it's floating off the screen, so that's good, particularly for the boat heading to Rarotonga. And we'll be back again tomorrow, same time, same place. The frequency is now all yours. Cheers all.
Thank you, Patricia.
All right.
Where are we?